Hello again, and welcome to our Biped tutorial. This is part 2. I'm going to get into a little bit of motion with him now. First, before we get into that, actually, I want to kind of go into a little bit more about what I meant with the twist in his arms, because this kind of gives you more real-life type of movements here. And so, like I said, I gave him a twist in his forearm, but if you notice, you grab his forearm and you go to rotate it, it rotates from that top, okay? That's fine. But say you just want to rotate your wrist, like you can, and without rotating the whole arm, adding that little twist in there, lets you do this to his arm, which is kind of a more real motion. So rather than grabbing his arm and twisting him all the way from the shoulder, this allows you a little bit more free movement here. So that is all I wanted to say about that. So now we get into some other movements here with him. Let's first start talking about some footstep modes. Because before you start keying some motions, any other motions that you do with your biped, if you start keying motions with him, it's not going to let you add in footsteps. So it's always best if you want to plan out your own footsteps first and then start keying the rest of the body motions and movements. So I got into footstep mode here, and let's say I want to create multiple footsteps. So I'm going to click down here in Footstep Creation. And here this window pops up and it says how many number of footsteps. So let's say I just want to throw in like 10 footsteps. Talks about stride width, so you can make those wider if you want to. He'll start striding a little bit funny. Or you can tell him to start with the right foot. Depends on how you want your character, how you want to key your character's movements. First steps, last steps, and it gives you lots of options here. So when I click OK, you'll see that it now lays out basically 10 footsteps. It starts with 0, where their feet are originally placed, and then goes out to 9. And so if I go to let's see here, I want to key those footsteps. And so what I will end up doing is right here, Footstep Operations, it says key, can create keys for inactive footsteps. So once I click on that and I play through my timeline, it plays those footsteps, and it also adjusts the length of my timeline. You see now it's up to like 153. So it automatically extends your timeline to fit those footsteps. So there we go. He's already moving his arms. Body motions are already happening. Walk cycle done, right? So that's pretty easy. So let's say I want to get rid of those. I'm just going to Control Z back out of that. I'm still in footstep mode. Let's say I want to create footsteps at a certain frame or current frame. So I can say, okay, I want him to step here and then step there, and kind of decide how I want it to look. So if I go, here's a footstep and here's a footstep, and I keep building these out, I can then I can key those inactive footsteps there. I know they're inactive because it still shows the colors, and you see that they're color coded based on the legs, so it tells you what foot's about to step here. Another thing I can do is I can select these feet and I can rotate them. I can say, okay, I want him to actually start to turn here, and maybe I want to move these somewhere else. I don't want them to be all right there where I had them, so I can take these and shift them around, make them turn around, I guess, different ways, make them go do kind of like a hard left. So if I can just grab the thing, come on, there we go. Let me rotate this guy here. Kind of have him like cross stepping, so that's kind of weird. I don't think I want that to happen. So I'll end up shifting these two over here, and we'll see how that kind of changes up the way he walks. It'll be kind of funny looking. So I've just created some different motions here. I'm going to key those footsteps, and now I can see he goes kind of funny. He doesn't know how to walk now, because I made him do like some weird twist. Oh, I see. Oh my goodness. I did some funny, weird stuff. He's like up in the air now. Oh, look at that leg stretch. Bam. All right. So I was really way off on the placements of those. I must have grabbed the wrong controls, but you kind of get the idea. Here they are, all on the same plane now. If I was smart, I'd have used that to actually shift his steps around and rotate. And so if I key those and I go to play, that's not so awkward. He does do some weird stepping though, but I can change his direction and how I want him to move. So once I do that, and let's say I want to auto key him, let's say I want him, he steps here and I want him to do something else, then I can then take him and start to maneuver him in different ways. So let's get into that in just a second here. All right, so sorry, I had to take a little break there. We got our character. I noticed I did some weird stuff with his legs. So I really have to fix his legs here. I'm going to go back into here and change his leg lengths. I have at 4. They should be at 3. So that kind of helps fix his weird leg movements for a bit. So what I started messing around with, and what you can't do yet, I'm going to turn off structure mode now, because it's not going to let you key any of his motions in figure mode or footprint mode or footstep mode. So while he's out of those modes, you deselect those and you'll see the keyed movements of his steps appear here. These are his footsteps. Let's say I know from this step to this step, I want him to like raise his arm. He's walking down the road. He wants to wave his hand. So what I want to do here is I'm actually going to auto key his arm here. So I've got it selected, and I'm just going to rotate it up. And I want him to just basically, oh my goodness, I just want him to raise his arm up. Maybe this is where you can add in a little bit of a twist. He's raising it, twisting. And what he's going to do is kind of hold that up there for a few frames. And so since I've keyed that on there, what I'm going to do is take that key, I'm going to hold shift, and I'm copying it up to frame 70 here. And that way, kind of see he's kind of raising and lowering his hand a couple times. So different things that how you can edit those movements, because his walking, his steps are keyed. There's lots of body motions that are in play there, because those are already controlling his arms. That's why his arm pops back down. So waving his arm is not going to be as simple as just being able to copy and paste those over from one to the other. So I'm going to delete that frame out. If I want his arm to stay up there, then what I would have to do is copy this over and get out of here. I can take that, I can shift, slide it over and alter it just a little bit and kind of do the same thing here. I'm going to shift. If I want to add like some tiny movements here, I'm going to rotate it back. And that way when he's raising, he does like a little wave, and then back down it goes. And so when I'm done with that motion, I can now click